for the remainder of this financial year. This schedule was originally sent out in May of this year, at the beginning of the financial year, for members to give their opinion so that we could sign off on the schedule. We have not been able to do that for different reasons. We are now here that we have to sign off on this schedule today so we can move forward in scheduling some dates for the PAAC. Just as in context, for financial year 2022-23, we only had only 9 meetings of the PAAC, which 5 were mandatory meetings, compared to 16 meetings in 21-22. And in 2019-2020, we have had 24 meetings. So we are way behind now in the amount of meetings that we are to have. The majority of the meetings that we have had yet so far for this year have been to do with the supplementary budget. Suffice to say that we have a long outstanding report, which is the Ministry of Education and Youth. We first met with them, and the only meeting we have had with them yet so far, the last meeting was the 30th of November 2022. So that is not saying well for the committee itself on our own scheduling of meetings. I attempted to schedule a meeting in September. Sorry, let me get the exact date. In June, we scheduled a meeting in June, and we had to put off that meeting because members had different activities in their constituencies, and that meeting was scheduled to be so that we can wrap up the Ministry of Education. Outside of the Ministry of Education's report, we also have a report, a long-standing report from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. So a proposed schedule was prepared by the consultant for the committee, has been circulated many times. I have gone ahead and booked some dates, scheduled dates, proposed dates of meetings that we can have moving forward. Those dates, well, today we're having this meeting on September 27th. We also have booked October 4th, October 11th, October 18th, November 1, 8th, 22nd, and November 29th. Those dates are booked for the PAAC. I'm recommending that we sign off on a schedule going down to November 29th. Next week, as you would have heard in the Parliament yesterday, we have been asked to schedule a meeting next week. For looking at the 3rd supplementary budget. So those are my opening remarks, and we will move to item 4, which is apologies. I know Member Hamilton, who is online, who said that she will have to leave early. She has an activity in her constituency. Apologies for Member Davis, and an apology for Member Mike Henry. Member Siblings, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. And good morning to my colleagues. With regards to the matter of that you raised in your opening remark, I have a question, Chair. time that meetings, you mentioned that there was about approximately 9 meetings held in comparison to 16 held the year before. I'm asking, within the context of the parliamentary holding of meetings, if the parliament was available on Wednesdays, and meetings were scheduled for the PAC, because that too need to be taken into consideration. So that would be a very useful information. The other thing is, you made mention of the fact that you had scheduled a meeting and it was postponed due to members of parliament or members of the committee having some things to do within their constituency. And my recollection of what happened there was with regards to persons being invited to be at graduations and to be guest speakers at graduation. But Chair, my recollection of those persons who had submitted apologies, that was approximately 4 persons. So I don't know if that was the sole reason, or that could not be the sole reason to my mind for the postponement of the meeting, being that a quorum could have been formed even if those 4 persons were not able to attend the meeting.
Well, for that particular meeting, the members who had signed the register that is usually circulated in the House, those were the same members who basically started emailing the following morning to say that their apologies that they would not be able to come. So for the signatures that we actually had, were a majority of those who signed the register then were the ones. So at that point in time, the clerk and myself took the determination that we were going to have, 1, a poor turnout, and 2, it was an instance where the Ministry of Education itself, it would not have made sense then with those who responded in writing then or affixing their signature to the register and sending the emails, that we would have struggled to even have a quorum then. For those who did not sign the register, who sat in Parliament or who said that they would not have attended, we couldn't depend on those individuals. So in that state, we then took the decision that instead of having the Ministry of Education to come here and we having not being able to secure a quorum, that we would have then rescheduled that meeting. To the question that you asked about a Wednesday being a fixed date, as it is right now, we don't have that fixed Wednesday anymore. We have to schedule and book that Wednesday like any other committee. Hence,
no, that wasn't my question. My question was, being that you had mentioned that there were 9 meetings in comparison to 16 meetings. I said I had indicated that alone would not necessarily be telling the full story, because to my mind there were a number of Wednesdays that was scheduled for joint select committees, and the availability of the Parliament was not there for us to have meetings. And I'm saying that that too should be put into the discussion. The other thing that I had said with regards to those 4 persons that had indicated via email that they can't attend the meeting, and therefore there would be a quorum, and you your response is that based on those persons who had signed the register, there were some that had signed the register that indicated the following day, the same 4 indicated they had signed the register initially to attend, but the following day they stated that they had engagement in their constituency. And based on what you have said, it would tell me that there was some speculation on your part, because you stated that you consulted with the clerk of the committee, and you felt that there would not be adequate amount on the day, and not that there would not be a quorum, but there would not be adequate amount of members on the day for the discussions to carry. So it would be therefore be something that the meeting could not have been held, but your thinking is that you would not have adequate amount of persons, and hence the meeting was postponed. I just want to put that into perspective, because I don't want it to be out there that all the members were not able to come, or adequate amount of members were not able to attend the meeting, because the record doesn't show that.
Member Holness.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, fellow members. Just the first put on record, as Speaker of the House, I have privilege and ought not to be at committee meeting. So, Chair, just asking your permission, you would understand what happened in terms of the swift transition. And I am still on the committee, but I know I appropriately ought not to be joining committee meeting. So before I even make a contribution, Chair, I'm asking your permission to be here today. This would be my last sitting as Speaker. You never know, I could be back.
And on behalf of the committee, we want to congratulate you as a long-standing member of the committee on your ascension to Speaker of the House. You may go ahead, Madam.
Thank you, Chair. I really did not have a full appreciation that we had a challenge in securing sufficient beds and some of the issues that members had. I have to join Member Sibley's to a great extent, and I did some checks myself, and I'm encouraging that we put aside the past and adjust our schedule in a way that allows for sufficient notice of all members, notice for the ministries, agencies, and departments, and to ensure that persons have no reason they can't attend other than illness or genuinely have another engagement they could have avoided. Because even if you're requested to come to a graduation, even if you have someone who is sick or who has passed in your constituency, if you know you have PAAC meeting, which we hold so valuable and dear and critical that we attend, then it means you would be able to say to someone else, I am blocked from 10 o'clock until 1 o'clock. I can come to your event, but I will not be able to come next Wednesday at X time or Y time because I'm pre-scheduled. So my first recommendation is that we pre-schedule for as much of the year as we can, even if we do not know what we are going to discuss on that day, that we ask the clerk to just lock in every 2 Wednesdays, whatever the committee decide, because I'm not on the committee anymore. If they decide every 2 weeks, they would want to meet at least 3 times out of the month, but lock in all the Wednesdays so that it becomes our discretion now as a committee. If something else urgent comes up at the Parliament, to say, yes, we will stand down, we will give our time, but we get the priority in terms of having a PAAC meeting. Thanks, right. Chair.
You're welcome. You joined late, Member Holness. In my opening remarks, and I will say it again, that the we have dates booked now, and I will not go back in the challenges that I had faced as chairman. I am wanting us to move forward, right? And to that date of the meeting that was canceled in June, as we have to give the ministry 2 weeks notice. I know that the notice for that meeting went out on time, right? Members signed the register in Parliament that they would attend, and that when the meeting date was to come, we start seeing the cancellations. But as I said, we're moving forward. So we have dates booked, as a Wednesday is no longer guaranteed for the PAAC. We have to book the date like any other committee. We have October 4th, October 11th, and 18th booked. November 1, 8th, 22nd, and November 29th booked for the PAAC, right? So where I want us to do, to move forward, in moving forward, is that we have a proposed schedule. Our meeting today is for us to look at the proposed schedule that has been recommended by the consultant, and for us to look at that schedule on top of recommendations that have been made by members in the MDAs that we would like to appear to the PAAC, and to book these, have a complete schedule up at least up to the end of November. Normally December is a busy time also for members of Parliament, going down into the Christmas period. But we have outstanding reports to be completed, which is the Ministry of Education. And the last time we met with the Ministry of Education was in November 2022. And we have not yet completed that report. We also have an outstanding report from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. So I am proposing that the first 2 dates in October, 4th and 11th, that we complete the Ministry of Education, and then we have the Ministry of Labor come on the 11th to examine that report. So the dates from the 18th down to November 29th, that we schedule some MDAs for those dates. That's my proposal. Member Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I proceed to the substance, I rather refer to our colleague in this instance as member Olness and not speaker. I have a grow. She did not seek permission to be released from the committee to take that higher seat. So I want her to be aware that we're holding it against her, that she didn't get her consent from her colleagues before. That aside, Chairman, I hear you keep on repeating about the Wednesdays not available, and we have to contest for the meeting dates like every other committees. It is so because it is changed to be so. There are 2 standing committees of Parliament that have been given preeminence in terms of scheduling because of their importance to the Parliament and the country: the PAC and the PAAC. PAC on Tuesday mornings, PAAC on Wednesday mornings, and all others contest for other times, and if needs be, have to go into Thursday. Unless there can be convincing reasons why the PAAC must not be no longer given that preeminence, I want to propose and insist that we seek to preserve that. As I said, it's one that has been observed because of its importance to the country that we wouldn't have to challenge. So I want to put that forward, Chairman, that we don't just accept. We would like the clerk to tell us why is it that this is not so, and for us to seek for it to revert to its normal practice. And yes, as Member Holness, now Speaker Holness, has said, if by virtue of our scheduling we can release it for other committees, we deal with it on a case-by-case basis. In much the same way that the PAAC reschedule its normal activities to deal with matters like the supplementary budget, which is time sensitive and is of national importance for us to consider that. So I really want to put that for our consideration and our action. Lastly, in respect to the proposed schedule for the Ministry of Education and Labor for the 4th and the 11th, I want to propose that on the 11th we do Heart 2, because it's part of the youth portfolio where Ministry of Education would be before. So I would like us to just put those together. If that won't be a problem, I would suggest that as an amendment to the proposed schedule.
All right. The Ministry of Education's schedule is quite, what should I say, detailed. And I'm going through that since last year. I'm not sure that even one more meeting will take care of it. So the Heart Trust falls on the OPM, but it's still a part of the training and educational apparatus of the country. So that is something we can put to the committee when we're looking at the schedule for sure. And then we can move probably Ministry of Social Security down. But when we're looking at the schedule, then I'll ask you to just bring that up. Member Sibley's, I see your hand is still raised. Is your hand still raised, or you want to come back for?
Your permission.
Go ahead, Member Sibley's.
Yes, I joined with my colleague with regards the PAC have the Wednesdays. I would have more no.
Member Sibley's, you are coming in and out. We're not hearing you clearly. Not hearing you. You want to see if you can sort out your mic, and let me just let Member Holness go ahead. Go ahead, Member Holness.
With the member, my friend Member Jackson, because I am not aware any rule has changed. You see, what has happened to us with a lot of joint select meetings, if close to the...
Can you repeat, for Member Holness, can you repeat, because you are also coming in and out?
Jackson, that we should have priority set and remain.
Unfortunately, I think we're having a little technical difficulty. We're having a little technical difficulty because you're coming in and out. You'd like to go again?
So?
I'm hearing you now. All right, members, go ahead, Member Holness. See you. You're muted. All right, members, we're having a difficulty in hearing you. Member Sibley's, you want to come back again and try? Go ahead, Member Sibley's. Neither hearing you nor seeing your camera. Go ahead.
Chairman.
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Members not hearing you.
Chairman.
Yes. Well, members have been questioning the Wednesday availability. Members, that is not a lack of trying. There are two issues. One, and I really don't want to have to go back through everything that was gurgitated basically in the media and discussions that have been had. Suffice to say that we are here now having this meeting to schedule the...
Clearly, I'm hearing Member Holders very clearly.
Yeah, something is wrong.
Yes, obviously something is wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, so we...
I rejoin and see if that will solve the problem.
I will.
I'm hearing you clearly. Member Holness?
I am here with Member Holness.
Members who are online, we are not hearing you. There are some technical difficulties. So...
Chairman, I was suggesting that we all leave the meeting, all of us online.
You want to rejoin the meeting?
I think we should all leave and then rejoin.
All right, I'll suspend the meeting for about 5 minutes so that members can rejoin. The meeting suspended for 5 minutes.
How do bills become law in Jamaica? Laws are made to create order, to ensure our safety, and to protect our rights against abuses by other citizens, organizations, and even the government itself. A bill is a proposal for either a new law or for a change to an existing law. Jamaica's Parliament is responsible for making our laws, and that responsibility is shared between two houses. There are 21 parliamentarians appointed from both political parties to the upper house, also known as the Senate. And there are 63 members of parliament that we, the people, elect to the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives. To pass a law, there is a minimum of 6 stages required in each house. The process can begin in the upper house by a senator or in the lower house by your member of parliament. And their proposals for a new bill can certainly start with you, the citizen. Now, since the process often begins in the House of Representatives, let's start there. 1. The first stage begins with the introduction by the minister responsible for the bill, followed by the first reading of the bill by the clerk to the houses. This clerk is more like the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer for the Parliament. An announcement of the bill is published in the Gazette. This is a public newsletter that the government uses to inform the citizens of what the Parliament is doing on your behalf. 2. The second reading begins with a summary of the bill by the minister. The main reasons for the bill are discussed both by the government and opposition members to determine if Jamaicans would really be better off with the new law or changes to an existing law. A vote is taken by the House to determine if the bill will move to the committee stage. Sometimes before going to that stage, the minister responsible for the bill can recommend the use of a joint select committee. It's called joint as its members are
So therefore, I can't see why it is that the PAAC would not get priority to meet.
So in the past, and Member Jackson, who has been a very long-standing member of the committee, the Wednesday would be there. If there was any other committee who wanted that date, they would refer back to the PAAC if we were going to actually use a date or not. Then the date would be given up. What has been happening is that other meetings, without even referring to the PAAC, other meetings or committees have just booked the dates. Then when we go to the date itself, the date is gone. So I am in total agreement on the suggestion that has been made. What we want to do is to book some dates going forward. If it is that we are not using that dates, then we can release it to another committee, right? But so hence why we have booked the dates for October and November, which is quite hectic, but we have a lot of work to catch up on before the end of the financial year. Because I want to remind members that the call for the budget starts now in November. So for us to even get permanent secretaries and MDAs to come after November going into January is generally a time that some are not available because of the preparation of the budget, which is tabled before, during that quarter, all right? So hence why we have to front load the committees now going forward, coming down to the end of the calendar year. But I'm in agreement, and I will take that suggestion, and we will book the dates and circulate them with members. And what I want us to do today, as I mentioned before, is for us to schedule the MDAs that will appear on these dates that we have booked, and then we can move forward. All right? Thank you. Member Civils, I see your hand is still raised.
Yes, Chair. Are you hearing me at this moment?
Yes, I'm hearing you, member.
Right. Thank you, Chairman. And so I think what I was saying earlier was that I joined Member Jackson in what he had said. I totally concur with him that we should not be sitting down to say that the PAC doesn't have priority. But then after you spoke just now, I recognize what are the issue, or what is the issue. And I think with you scheduling or booking or the Wednesdays, or whether it's every Wednesday or we do 3 Wednesdays per month, of the fact that there are other committees that might need the time, because we have a weekly or so on. They still need to meet and do the business of the nation. So the Wednesday, I am not sure we should schedule every Wednesday. My thought is that we should schedule at least 3 Wednesdays out of every.
Okay.
Other members of my colleagues will join.
All right. Your point taken, as I mentioned before, and I'm still putting it on the table that we have 3 meetings scheduled for October, and I'm proposing the 4 meetings for November, seeing that we are going into the Christmas and seeing that the first quarter of the new year is generally when you have the ministries, departments, and agencies preparing for the budget.
I'm in agreement, Chairman, with the proposal, with that proposal.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, you're good? All right, so members...
So But Chairman, before you move on, may I?
Go ahead, Member Sibley. We're not hearing you, Member Sibley. All right, members, let us...
With regard to the meeting on the...
Members, we're having some technical difficulties with those members that are online. We are not hearing you clearly now, Member Sibley. So we're going to move along. Members, we're actually at item 5, even though we had leapfrogged the discussion. But let us just finish the confirmation of the minutes, which was a meeting held on July 19th, 2023. Those minutes have been circulated. Can we take those minutes as being read? Yes, Member Lee and Member Jackson. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Member Hamilton, I know you had some, in an email, you had some correction to the minutes.
So it was more of formatting and line spacing, but nothing substantial.
All right, so can I move for the confirmation of the minutes? So move, Member Lee, and seconded by Member Jackson. Members, well, there are no matters arising. That was a supplementary budget that we had on that meeting.
Well, Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not sure if you're able to hear. There was a matter arising.
Which is? Go ahead, member.
The infrastructure to service those buses. It's on the second page, I think, of the minute. For the information in relation to the costing to put in the infrastructure.
That is pertaining to, what page is that?
This is the second page in the...
Right, so you want us to follow up on the cost of the infrastructure? All right, noted. Remember, the suggestion has been made by by Member Jackson to include HEART NTA in when we're bringing the Ministry of Education, so that we can put together the whole training aspect with the education. The members online have left us. But we have a quorum here, so I'm going to continue with the meeting. So can we agree that October 4th we reinvite we have a scheduled meeting for October 4th, right? So we'll invite the Ministry of Education, and we continue on October 11th with the Ministry of Education and bring HEART, which is the Office of the Prime Minister, but we can do the two on the same day because we're wrapping up the Ministry of Education, and then we can just merge into HEART. That proposal is being made, and I'm putting it to the committee members. You're fine with that, Member Jackson? Member Lee?
I'm okay with that, Chairman.
You're okay with that?
Yes.
So then we will then push schedule October 18th for Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Can we agree on that for October 18th, Ministry of Labor and Social Security? Yes? All right. So, okay, so we have 3 dates. All right, members, looking at the schedule that that was proposed by our consultant, you have that in front of you. That meeting, that the third, at number 3, his suggestion was Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Housing. Yeah. See. All right, you have that one? Oh. Yeah. Ministry of Economic Growth, 3. Dealing with estimated annual national and parish by parish housing output. Can I see what you have, please? All right, let me get this copy. Here it is. Thank you, so I need to get rid of this. All right, so item 4. Thank you, Member Lee. Dealing with the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, having to do with the current projected impacts of climate change on Jamaica, challenges and opportunities, recycling and waste reduction efforts and initiatives. Also proposed is the Ministry of Health and Wellness, having to do with capacity staffing and equipment issues in the public health sector in Jamaica. Also recommended is BOJ, FSC, and FID regulations, protocols, and practices involved in the oversight of the financial sector. Seeing that the Minister of Finance has tabled a bill dealing with the FSC, I'm not sure that we would want to bring the FSC at that time until that has been dealt with in the House. We're also at number 7 is Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, dealing with the estimated annual national and parish by parish housing output and demand over the past 5 years, measures to increase housing outputs and take up for moderate income professionals such as nurses, teachers, police officers.
That point you raised about the bill which I saw was tabled yesterday for the FSC, it may be, just for consideration, it may be useful for us to meet with them as we go about considering the proposed provisions in the legislation.
Okay.
It might help to strengthen, one, for our benefit and the country's benefit in terms of what prevails now. An amendment bill normally and usually is to strengthen an existing legislation. And what we have seen over the years is that much of the deliberations in the committee highlights many deficiencies or shortcomings. Not that they were there deliberately, but as time progressed, there's a need for change in legislation to keep track of the changes in the environment. It may be useful, Chairman, that we proceed with those deliberations in light of the tabled amendments.
All right, so in light of that, would you want to then bring the BOJ up to number 4, which would be after Ministry of Labor.
We could.
We have the first, because that would be down. That would be down in November.
Yeah. I don't know, for example, though the Minister of Finance did not indicate if that bill is going to be subject to a joint select committee.
Well, that's hence why I made the suggestion to just wait and see what comes of the minister himself when he speaks on it, because it was tabled yesterday. I would suggest that we just wait to see if it is going to a joint select committee, and then we can decide on. All right. But also, even though this schedule has been recommended by the consultant, our consultant assigned to the committee, I am also putting it out to members if there are any other suggestions that members would like to make to be added to this list, so that we can discuss it and see where we schedule those. Member Lee, you're up first.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I believe Member Hamilton made a suggestion for October 18, when we have the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, that we also include recycling partners.
Right,
I think that was a good suggestion.
Yes.
And so I'm for that as well.
All right. So,
you could make a note of that.
Yes, I'm reading her email.
Right, and
now.
I'm in agreement too that we keep the BOJ further down, because we would want to give it time to see the direction in which the ministry will take on that. For number 7, where we have the Ministry of Economic Growth pertaining to the NHD, HAJ, and UDC, also on this part, I would want us to look on the rehabilitation program in terms of the older developments.
Okay.
A report on the older developments within these entities, HAJ, NHD, and so on.
Right.
Because I know that there's an issue where we are looking at some developments that have not been passed on, and I know NHD they're actually doing redevelopment in these areas. They're fixing roads, fixing up, and it will be interesting to know the plans, of course, that the other entities, HAJ and UDC, has in plans for that.
Also, Member Hamilton also suggested NHF policy around the 17 chronic illness, and MOH, Ministry of Health also, information on issues of mental health, especially among the youth, and seeing that we're having a outbreak of dengue, I think also we could include the Ministry of Health in giving us an update on how expenditures having to do with the dengue and the various issues having to do with preparation and control of. And we are seeing also in the supplementary budget a large amount going to the Ministry of Health in dealing with certain issues within the Ministry of Health. So I would take on her recommendation also in adding the Ministry of Health to the list, right? That we can set the dates. Sorry. And then we
so
can
in full
set
agreement with that, Chair. And definitely the dengue report will be important for the Ministry of Health. So I think having them, they're strategically placed, it would be after the 18th. So which date will we be looking at for the Ministry of Health? Because you have the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation on the 18th of October.
So, well, we have, right, so we have the Ministry of Economic Growth on the 18th. Mm-hmm. Do we then bring the Ministry of Health on the November 1?
Yes, Chair, because the next meeting
right?
Based on the suggestion was November
yes.
1, Wednesday, November 1.
Right, and the Ministry of Economic Growth has to do with the climate change, which will include recycle partners.
Correct.
But also, do we, looking at waste to energy management, do we also get a report from the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of, okay, no, this has to do with climate change, really.
Yeah, it mentions challenges and opportunities. I don't know if bringing the National Water Commission will be a bit too detailed at this point. The fact that we have the committee has met with them before.
All right, so let us concentrate on the environment.
Yes.
And we can probably, as been suggested here by the consultant, to get UWI Climate Action Unit also involved, a report from them, so that we can merge the two with the ministry and the UWI unit on climate change, and have a fulsome discussion. What we will then ask members to do is to forward questions or issues that they may want the report to include also, right? So that will be a follow-up email from our clerk.
Right, and Chair, just to add, after we're through here, this schedule will be resent to the committee for final approval,
yes.
Correct?
Well, this committee now meeting is where the final approval is going to be made. We have a quorum right here now. Honestly, member,
okay.
We have been at this schedule from May of this year. And this meeting is scheduled here to sign off on the proposed meeting dates so that we can send to the ministries, departments, and agencies for them to send their reports. I'm not going to go back and forth again with members, because just has been said by member Sibley's, is that once I have a quorum, why not go ahead with the meeting? We do have a quorum here, and we're going to go ahead with the meetings as such.
Yes, Chair. I think we're all in agreement, and based on what everyone has shared so far, we're all in agreement that we need to move forward with the schedules leading up to the end of the year. Thank
you, Member Lee. All right, so we're at November 8th now. So we have so far for October 18th, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation dealing with climate change. And we have Ministry of Health. For November 1, we have November 8th. Also, there was one member that also made a suggestion for National Works Agency also. That should be added to the proposed schedule. So, yeah. No, so there was a email communication when we asked members to make suggestions on other entities that was not on the schedule from the consultant. Just like Member Hamilton had made the suggestions for Ministry of Health and some of the areas and Heart Trust. Other members had suggested Heart Trust before and the National Works Agency. So I'm putting that in the schedule because as I've said before, Member Lee, that outside of this that has been proposed, members can also make suggestions and we discuss it and see where it can fit.
Understood. But after November 1, we have BOJ, FSC, FID. Which date
this
are we
is
proposing?
Not fixed, you know. As I'm saying, we can redo the schedule that was proposed. This is just a proposal. So that's why I'm asking if we can, as was suggested, if we can add to this, just as we added Heart, National Works Agency in between. So we can, so do we want to wait until we hear, all right, let us put the BOJ for November 8th.
It's the week after, November 8th.
All right. By that time, we will know what has happened with the FSC.
Direction in terms of the FSC.
FSC, and if needs be, we can then put another agency or MDA there. Okay. All right.
And then the date for...
Then I will, can I suggest the NWA for November 22? Member Jackson? I'm making a suggestion for National Works Agency for November 22, especially going down into the Christmas
So after
period.
the 8th, we'll go to November 22?
22, yeah. We have 2 more dates that have been booked for the PAC, which is November 22 and November 29th. So we have 2 more dates that we can schedule MDA there. All right, so I'm suggesting November 22 for the NWA. And then we can look at who we bring for November 29th.
We haven't chosen a date, Chairman, for the NHD, HAJ, UDC.
All right, so we can do that one for the 29th. Ministry of Economic Growth looking at housing and the various agencies and departments within government that deals with housing. Yes? Okay. All right, so far we have October 4th. You want to say something, Member? All right, so far we have October 4th, which is Ministry of Education. No, the supplementary is next, October 4th. Yeah, but that can be. So hence why we go to the 11th. All right. Yes, I totally forgot. Yes, no. My bad. I'm mixing up that date. So the supplementary is October 4th, Ministry of Education / Heart for the 11th. Right. And then we have proposed Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for October 18th, dealing with climate change. November 11th, Ministry of Health, including NHF. November 1, sorry, my apologies. November 1, Ministry of Health / NHF. November 8th, BOJ with the other attending agencies. I need to find out if we have one second, members. Members, let's go back over this again. Right. So October 11th is Ministry of Education. Right? because we have October 4th, which was a scheduled date that we had booked prior to the Ministry of Finance asking us to look at the supplementary. Yes. Oh, this is, that's why I'm mixing it up, you know. That's why I'm mixing, no. You're correct. That's why I'm mixing it up, because this was not originally a part of, right? So October the 11th is Ministry of Education, right? October 18th, Ministry of Labor and Social Security. We already have the report from the Ministry of Labor. So the original intention, as is suggested here by the consultant, is to do Ministry of Labor as the second one. We have their report already, so we just need to bring them and complete that report. Right? They are October 18th. And then we have Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, which will come November 1, dealing with climate change. November 8th will be Ministry of Health. November 22 will be BOJ. No, remember, no, we're moving down because we had left out Ministry of Labor, right? And November 29th will be NWA. So when we resume, 29th will be NWA. So when we resume now, then we would look at, which we agree on, which is Ministry of Economic Growth, again, looking at housing. No, we have no date for that, because we're going down to November 29th, and being the chairman that I am, I know that December is generally a busy time for members, right? December is generally a time when members are in their constituencies. So we have agreed on the MDAs and dates going down to November 29th. All right? All right, members, is there any, and this will be circulated via email from the clerk to all the members. All right, members, we're at item 8. Is there any other business?
I know today's meeting has dealt essentially not just with scheduling, but also with procedure. Chairman, I note when I came into Parliament yesterday that we have resumed the layout of the Parliament and allow for more, how should I say, focused interaction in the Parliament. Now you're sitting at the center, not to the side, and neither is the speaker to one side of the House. Clearly that as a result of the changes that have occurred coming out of the pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic, we had resorted to virtual meetings because of that situation. You see the reason why I make reference to yesterday's sitting and how we are now. I don't know if here is the appropriate place or the House Committee who has made the new arrangements coming from the pandemic experience. My own suggestion or invitation, Chairman, is that we relooked whether or not we return fully to the in-person meetings of the committees and only make exception for exceptional circumstances. For example, someone who might be traveling and wish to participate, but those are treated as exemption. And I'll tell you why I raise it, Chairman. Committees like ours, which is an oversight, we invite agencies and ministries to come. And the in-person one allows for far more effective interaction than the virtual. The virtual is far more impersonal and distant. And I'm one of those who believe that we should resort resort or return to the in-person meetings as a core basis, except for those exceptions. Chairman, we were all elected to come to Parliament, not just to speak in Parliament, but come to Parliament as a center of deliberations of the nation's business. And I believe that we ought to try to preserve that. We changed because of the circumstance that exists. That situation don't exist anymore. So that's my suggestion or my invitation for consideration.
Thank you, Member. Emma Jackson, I am in support of the face-to-face meetings, and I've been saying it for quite a while. It is the House Committee that adjusted the standing orders for virtual meetings or hybrid meetings as they are. I find it that when we do invite hybrid meetings, we end up with only 2 or 3 or 4 in the House, actually. You saw the challenges today of technology, but when we ask the MDAs to come out in their full forces, and we have 2 or 3 members or just a mere quorum in the House itself, it doesn't look good on our part as legislators, and I am in agreement with you that we get better deliberations when members are actually here and actually have these documents in front of them. Because what I've found is that members themselves really don't look at the emails when they come to them. And when they do get the hard copies in front of them is when they do pick up the questions and the issues that are in the reports, that they do actually have better deliberations with the MDAs that appear in front of the committee. So it is a recommendation that we can make to the House Committee itself to reconsider in actually having committees such as this with more participation of the members. In agreement with you that there should be circumstances where members can join online. But as the chairman of the committee, it is a better feel and look and result when we have more bodies actually sitting in the Parliament with the MDAs that take the time out to come and appear in front of the committee. Member Lee.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to add that I'm happy that we're going to be putting it before the committee, because I believe that it is a decision for all of us, yes, being members to make. Yes. Because apart from today where we're seeing some technical glitches, usually committee members who are also online, as Member Fitzjackson added, who are traveling or may have something critical to do in their constituency but also want to participate in meeting. They make very good contributions online as well. So I believe it is a discussion that is worth us having as a committee. But I just also want to add that even earlier today, before we had a technical glitch, we would have heard quite a bit of members, Member Holness, Member Sibley's, Member Hamilton, and others making contributions.
Well, when the Standing Orders Committee of the House made the amendment to the Standing Orders, we were not consulted as members of the committee either. And I mean, from my experience, for this committee, I can speak about the PAAC, right? And another committee that I am on, Infrastructure Committee. I see less members attending upon. And what you find, you may find 1 or 2 members that is online that actually contributes. I mean, this is a committee with 14 members. Yeah, this is a committee with 14 members, and to have a mere quorum here in the actual precinct of the House. Not that I don't have anything to do in my constituency on a Wednesday, but I know I have a responsibility not only to chair the meeting, but to also attend upon the meeting. And as I said, I have found that we get better contribution. Not that members online do not contribute. That I would never say that, right? But I can pinpoint the members that actually contribute to this committee when they are online, and it is a minimum, right? But I am also saying that if we ask the MDAs to be present, they too have other things to do. We have asked them to be present. I've had committee meetings here where all that side, when we had reduced seating over there, filled with only 4 members actually inside the house itself. You know, so in itself, also for our own, as the legislators asking the MDAs to appear upon on us in the committee, that it would be good for us to also be here.
Well, Chair, I hear you, and as I said, it is worth going for discussion in the committee, but I just don't think we would want to deprive members who are traveling the opportunity to also participate in committee meetings.
No, which is, we said that, which is a circumstance which Member Jackson mentioned.
But of course, we will encourage, we will encourage that persons are here as often as they can in person.
Let's be frank. Virtually, it's more convenient for many members to participate virtually from wherever you are, right? You don't have to travel in the traffic, you don't have to do that, and all other things is more convenient. The Parliament is a special place, very special place, where all of us, have to have it as not only special place, but special activities taking place. We all have constituencies. I tell my constituents when I come here, I don't come on my personal business. I come here on my constituency business and the country's business at the place where the country's business is deliberated and acted upon. I'm a bit taken aback to Chairman, when agencies schedule activities in our constituencies where they want our presence and do it on a Tuesday, for example, where Parliament sits. It's a disrespect to the Parliament, as if to say to the Member of Parliament, you choose between go to Parliament where you're elected to, or come to our function that we are planning at our convenience. Where the Member of Parliament is expected or desired to be present, those activities by ministries and agents should be outside of the Parliament's meeting day and meeting time. It happened with Parliament, much more committee, right? Indeed, there will be exceptional situations that members will have to be out there. Those are the exceptions. And a minister, for example, who is a member of the House, who have to be out there. Ministers, for example, travel overseas on government business. They are still working. Those are the exceptional cases. But for committees of the House, all of us must schedule our constituency business, because I want to make one point. We all are elected from constituencies, but we do not only have responsibility to our constituencies. We have responsibility to the country as a member of the Parliament. And when you leave your constituency, it is to come to fulfill that national responsibility. Because this is a committee not of constituencies. These are committees of the Parliament of the entire country. So I just want to say to my colleagues that we must put some preeminence to being here.
All right, members, are there any other business? No other business? Yes, member.
Yes, Chair. Just wanted to ask the committee, when do we plan for January? Because are we saying that we're not going to be having meetings in December? Based on what you have said, December being busy, and then if so, which meeting will we be planning for January?
I would say that come November 8th. Well, let me ask the clerk to look at the calendar and then start looking at those dates, booking those dates from now. And then when in the course of our deliberations here, we'll ask members to make some suggestions of, well, we have already Ministry of Housing, which we have agreed on here, which we can schedule for the next available date after November 29th. I would say that we probably, once the beginning of December, once a date is available, if we can book even one meeting for December, and then we look at January. And I will take the suggestion from member Sibley's that we at least book 3 Wednesdays in each month moving forward, and see if we can then schedule those dates
at minimum,
for meetings.
at minimum 2 Wednesdays, I would suggest.
Right.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Support that, but just to add to Member Lee's point is that we don't want to shackle ourselves.
Yeah.
We have, for example, up until the end of November by scheduled meetings. I believe that by the end of October, we can begin to look at December and January.
That's my point. But you see, remember why I'm going to take the suggestion from members earlier, and you yourself said, book the Tuesday, the Wednesdays. If we are not going to, then we release the Wednesday, right? So that we don't have other committees scheduling on that same day, and then we can't get it, right? So I would say we'll ask her to look at the schedule going into December and January. Just book at least 3 in January, right? And then and we look at December. Then we can decide if we do. We will have enough time going down into October to then decide what we do in December and January. All right?
Just one last thing, just in support of why this kind of order is important. My sympathies are for my rural colleagues. So when they come to the house on a Tuesday, to know these things ahead can allow them to plan.
Agree.
Right? Because, even notwithstanding the toll road into Manchester, but even Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, Westmoreland members of Parliament who come in for a sitting on Tuesday, right? They must know they have to come to plan to stay over. And one last thing that is not our remit, but as chairman I have to throw it at you. The provisions and the accommodations for our rural MPs who travel to meetings and those who come at Tuesday sittings and have to overnight and so forth. I don't fall in that category, but it is just unreasonable.
Well, member,
and a funny thing, persons who work in the ministries and agencies, provisions are there for accommodation for them when they
go
have to overnight out of town.
Yes.
In the courts, in the ministries. So not anything special that I am asking for is that in carrying out the public duties that our colleagues in those, especially those rural ones, outside of St. Catherine, for example, and Kingston, and probably you could even include St. Thomas as part of the near areas. But for those beyond, it's unfair to them.
Remember, it has hampered a lot of committee meetings for members, especially those coming from the West. And I mean, as long as I've been in this house, the issue of accommodation for rural MPs and their drivers has been a long-standing issue. But also, I mean, there's an issue that has arisen also in dealing with one. I don't know if other MPs are facing it, but they're bank accounts that have to do with constituencies, where the banks are now closing those accounts. Yet still the funds that we get as MPs, the 250 to manage your constituency office, in my case, it has nowhere to go because the bank keep blocking it from coming to what I have for the last 11 years as a constituency account. Now, what it forces is that you have to now get a check and lodge it to your own personal account, which for me, that is something that I don't want to mix up Parliament money with my own personal account. And I think that once you're elected, there should be something coming from the Ministry of Finance, the Parliament, that each constituency office, each constituency should be able to open a bank account without, in this instance, they're asking me for financials, they're asking for all different things. Because the bank account should not be in my name, but it should be in the name of the constituency itself. And being able to operate that, funds coming from the Parliament should be able to go to that account to have to do with what it is dedicated for, which is the running of your constituency office. So that in itself for me is an issue that also we need to deal with where constituencies are concerned, and how it is that we deal with the financial institutions, because they refer to us as politically exposed persons, and where the oversight of the spending of the public's funds is concerned, that should be done with where we are assisted in having these accounts opened and operated. And for a couple of years now, I've heard MPs complaining about banks closing these accounts. And that should not be so, and we should be supported by the Parliament and the Ministry of Finance, and it's something that I plan to raise with the Minister of Finance himself, because then that brings our own scrutiny under the microscope, and that is something that should be.
Maybe there's a little way we could accomplish all of that, Chairman. If we want to be deliberate. In our recommendation, we put it in the report.
And I think we should.
Just been
no. It is a serious matter.
The whole thing about being politically exposed and so forth. The Bank of Jamaica tells us that it's an international agreement or convention that they have signed into. What we have done, or what we would be doing, is to make those entities more supreme than the Parliament of Jamaica. That undermines, compromise the functionality of the members that make up the Parliament and the members who make the laws in this country. It's not a personal favor you're asking for, a personal benefit. It's just to be facilitated to do what you're elected to do. It's an indictment on all of us, quite frankly. It's an indictment. And if we can't stand up to these entities to protect our interests, one will question our competence and ability to representation for the people who elect us. It's an indictment on us. And we should require the Minister of Finance, right, to address the matter with the expediency so that it doesn't exist.
But also, remember, coming down, and I know that we're looking now, there's a joint select committee looking at the job description for MPs, for parliamentarians. But there are certain things that should be fixed in a constituency. Government has more than enough lands, a fixed location for MPs to operate. MPs should not be going out there and renting space on plazas and different buildings for their constituency offices. No matter who is member of Parliament, be it from the governing side or the opposition side, there is a location for a member of Parliament. And two, so simple as a bank account to operate, that when you do get public funds dealing with coming from the Parliament, that there's an operating bank account that has a scrutiny of all at the end of the day of how funds are dealt with. That comes from the Parliament. In this case, we get $250,000 every month to operate a constituency office, right? Paying your utilities, additional staff if needs be, stationery and thing. That should not be going to the personal account of any MP at all. And that's just the point I'm making. And then at the end of the day, you're going to see us being investigated by the Integrity Commission, asking about the commingling of your personal funds with government funds. And we are causing that on ourselves. And that's just the point I'm making, that we have the power to change that. And I'm taking a recommendation from Member Jackson that in our next report, to the House itself, that should be raised, that it be dealt with by the Ministry of Finance and the Parliament itself in allowing each member of Parliament to operate on account for that constituency that they do represent. Because it's a frightening affair out there in this way that we are being treated.
And I'm sure too, Chair, that this matter will be taken, since I'm also a part of the Parliamentary Committee for Job Descriptions. We'll also raise it there for deliberations.
I would appreciate that on our behalf. All right, members, I think we have the date of the next meeting will be on October 4th at 10 a.m. where we'll be looking at the supplementary budget. All right, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, members.
The Joint Select Committee of Parliament, considering job descriptions, codes of conduct, and performance standards for parliamentarians, wants to hear from you. Send your opinions in writing by Tuesday, October 3, 2023 to Clerk to the Houses, Gordon House, 81 Duke Street, Kingston. Or email us at clerk@japarliament.gov.jm. Visit the Parliament's website at www.japarliament.gov.jm for details.